Okay, beautiful. Thank you very much for inviting me. I have a very, very deep connection to Turkey and actually Turkish culture. My great grandfather was born in Istanbul, and I'm a big fan of Turkish music. So hopefully one day we'll do this in person. But for now we will do this remotely. Um, Today I come, I would say, with a warning because essentially I think all of us are facing a very big choice in this very moment. And this is a choice that we're facing individually. This is a choice that we're facing as an industry, and this is a choice that we're facing ultimately as a species and as a civilization. This may sound dramatic, but I think it's real, and we are, as an industry, right at the center of this choice. So the choice essentially is between sort of the two futures and the two roads that we could take. The first road is sort of the default road that I think is going to happen unless we try really, really hard to do something about this. I call this the drone way towards the brave new world. And hopefully you're all familiar with the great work by Huxley, The Brave New World. This kind of continues path towards drone type existence of humans. As we create more artificial intelligence, we sort of end up outsourcing our own will and our own intelligence. And it's just not a very necessarily fun place to be. But there is the other path. This is not the only path. The other path is what I like to call the cyborg way towards the next creative revolution. And I think this path is possible. We are incredibly optimistic that if we really try hard and play our cards well, this is kind of the path that we can collectively take. I'm going to present this choice to you today over the course of the next, 15, 20 minutes and talk about how to choose the cyborg way, because I think the cyborg way is much more interesting, much more empowering, and also much more effective for us as an industry and for all of us as marketers and as human individuals. Um, Now, in order to unpack this dramatic choice, I need to take you back a little bit in time towards how all of this started. And this all started about 70 years ago, give or take. Um, the picture that you can see, the bunch of smiling guys, that's the legendary Dartmouth conference where those guys in 1956, 1955, they proposed a project and they said, look, given the current development in technology back then, 70 years ago, they thought it was a summer camp. It would only take a summer camp to kind of develop machines that would fundamentally be able to learn. You can see the plaque commemorating that, saying their goal was to proceed on the basis of the conjecture that every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can, in principle, be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. A couple of keywords there. Simulate is very important. They realize that it's a simulation of intelligence, but the reality is a close enough simulation is functionally indistinguishable, and then essentially it works. A couple of other things happened during the same period. Kurt Vonnegut published Player Piano. If you haven't read the novel, I would highly, highly recommend it. It was published in 1952, I think, or something around that time, really looking into sort of what does the future look like when humans outsource their intellectual decisions to machines, and how does that feel for a human to outsource their sense of agency? And lots of the pioneers scientifically also were thinking about this idea of outsourcing your intelligence, outsourcing your creativity. Norbert Wiener, the founder of cybernetics in 1950, published this book called The Human Use of Human Beings. Again, highly recommended. All of the dilemmas that we're facing now, they're all well thought through over the past 70 years, except they were not real. The project could not be completed in the summer. It took 70 years for us to get, mostly technologically. The ideas were there. The speeds were not. So anyway, that's basically sort of how it all started, and it's super interesting that we're not always looking at that. A lot of the people are sort of just running with technology without thinking about it. Now, the interesting part that I want to point your attention to is after Dartmouth, after 1956, there were two distinct camps of people working on this problem of intelligence. And this is not very well known, but there were actually two camps. One camp was called artificial intelligence camp, and the other camp was called intelligence augmentation, right? Augmentation is basically extension. Um, Brilliant people on both sides. Artificial intelligence was basically about taking tasks that humans can do that take intelligence, playing chess, recognizing objects, writing, understanding sentences, take the things that humans can do and teach the machine to do it. And then there was a second camp, brilliant people like Doug Engelbart, Marvin Minsky, some of the members of the original conference, and lots of others. They basically said, look, that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is augmenting human intelligence with this different kind of things that machines can do, so that collectively it's better, right? And so these were the two camps, and they were developing in parallel, and sort of artificial intelligence camp kind of won. And the reason it won was for economic reasons, right? If you substitute human labor with an equivalent, which is done technologically, that's a very easy path towards profit, right? Because you're basically saying some humans are doing something, we can now do that at the cost of electricity. Let's go. Intelligence augmentation is just a harder path. It's a harder road because you're saying, what are the things that we would like to do, but cannot do today with our own brains, that we need some sort of brain extensions for this. And this kind of continued for decades. Some of the most interesting thinking around the subject came in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, 80s. And so again, you have Marshall McLuhan, which again is more actual than ever. Please go ahead and check his stuff again. That's the media is the message guy. But basically his argument was that as any kind of technology, we're amputating ourselves. We're sort of extending whenever something is technologically available, our inner capacity for that goes. That's essentially one of his arguments, that technology is the extension of our nervous system. Now, what this means is, if you think about the technology, we amputated our memory already significantly. When I was a kid, I could remember 20 phone numbers. Now I cannot remember a single one, maybe my wife's. And so that's interesting. We kind of excuse me. We amputate our own sort of memory, and then with YouTube recommendations and TikTok, we're starting to amputate our own attention, which is a very, very central feature of the self. And now we're starting to amputate intelligence. Because thinking can be done by the machines, therefore our inner capacity for thinking inevitably goes down. That's the argument that sort of McLuhan presents. And then there is another argument, which is Marvin Minsky, the Society of Mind, the Emotion Machine, all of that stuff, highly recommended, who says, no, look, intelligence is not one thing in the first place. Intelligence is many different parts of our minds creatively talking to each other. And so the right way of thinking about building a machine that can think, but also building a machine that can extend our own thinking, is to kind of think about the society of mind and where does the machine play a role within that society. Now, thank you for humoring me, sort of on taking you on the long road to the past, but I think it's important for us to understand that. Now, let's get real. Let's get back to content production and the reality of today. What does this mean? What does artificial intelligence versus intelligence augmentation look like? Well, this is kind of what it looks like. On the left-hand side, you have what happens when you just ask Midjourney or some other image generator to create an image of a person in the office. And it just goes straight to the cliche, to the over-sexualized picture of a white girl and staring at you. And sort of that is the default. Let's just take the most common denominator and go there. And on the right-hand side, you have the beautiful, strange, weird world of strange aunties, which, just nobody would ever be able to imagine on their own. Like, this is not the natural place for human mind to go, but it's fascinating. You may like it, you may find it disturbing, but it's definitely getting your attention much more than the default. Now, the left image sort of captivates, especially for males, a very primal, it sort of pushes the primal buttons. You go like, yeah, I'm going to look at that. but the right animation captivates our imaginations. And that's the very reality of creating content. In our experience, again, going back to our very practical thing, on artificial intelligence side, about a year and 3 months ago, I created a thing called Uncreative Agency. You may have heard of it. It made some international headlines. There were 20,000 people using it from a single post on LinkedIn. That was really sort of a little bit of a prank on the industry. I said, well, what would it look like at that stage of technology if we could just fully automate it away? So I created this website called Uncreative Agency. You could give it a brief. It said no robots, no humans, no delays, no budget. So you just give it a brief. You say, this is my brand, this is my target audience, this is what I want them to do. Let's go. And then within 10 minutes, you received an email, crafted email with an attached PDF presentation that had a reformulation of your brief and then 3 ideas presented in this form that you can see here, global VR showcase, and sort of there was a sketch, and then there was a description of the idea and all of that stuff. And it was really meant to be a little bit of a joke and a poke at the industry because most of those ideas were terrible. But it came as a surprise that people took it seriously. And so that was super interesting. And some people took it seriously, and some people took it seriously and said, these ideas are terrible, but they're a good starting point. And this sort of what got us thinking, because then we said, okay, let's actually do this for real, because bad ideas are useful because they get you to better ideas faster. And so this is when we started developing our own tools at DDB, and sort of one of those tools, for example, is a bad ideas bot that really gives you the first terrible ideas so that you can move past the cliche, so that you know where not to go. And some of those ideas are a good starting point. And then as we started developing those tools, there are more sophisticated things that go into the intelligence augmentation territory. We're saying, what are the things that humans would not be able to do, but are useful for a creative process? On the right-hand side, you can see screenshots from one of our tools. We have many, which is proprietary, which is called the Freak Factory. And essentially what it does is when our creatives and strategists input the brief into the tool goes ahead and searches with a neural search a whole bunch of things, pop science, books, articles, Wikipedia, for the most interesting, different, diverging, and converging sort of facts that would allow you to look at the brief from a new angle. If you have a task of I don't know, helping teenagers get off the screen addiction, it would be interesting to understand what are the facts about why people actually are addicted to screens. What happens when they spend too much with them? How does that impact sleep? Like, no single human knows all of that or could extract all of that at 20 seconds, but the machines can, because that's something that machines are great at, dealing with large quantities of data, summarizing it, presenting it in interesting ways, understanding which one is close and not. And so this is one of the many tools that our people across the DDB network now use daily. Now, as you can see, it's a different approach. It's not do it for me. It's let's do it together, and you, machine, will do the part that is challenging for me to do, and then I, the human, will do the parts that I'm really good at, and also that sort of require those creative leaps that machines are currently not very good at, and judgment and taste. And so we're developing tools that are basically aimed at making our humans, and hopefully, everybody eventually, work actually harder and get to more interesting stuff rather than just looking at the things that can automate us away and make things easier. Now, obviously, making things easier has a role, right? One of the principles, we have a bunch of principles at DDB. One of the principles is that basically wasting human potential on things that robots can do equally well is just stupid. It's stupid from a business standpoint, and it's stupid from a ethical standpoint. Human creative potential is wonderful. We should really work to maximize it. Wasting it on uncreative tasks is silly. So there is a role for that. But I think the interesting part, the more interesting part, is really taking us to places where we wouldn't be able to go to by ourselves. And a lot of it is not in the tool itself. If you have access to things like ChatGPT and things like that, you can use it in this kind of drone capacity, do the work for me, and I'll take the answer. Or you can use it in this cyborg capacity where you're saying, you are the extension of my brain. Help me ask better questions about this. Let's look at this from a bunch of different angles. List the available viewpoints that we have, and then help me poke holes in that argument, right? So a lot of it is not necessarily in the tool, even though the tools unfortunately are biased towards the drone use, right? The I'll do the work for you use because that's easier. But a lot of it is not in the tools, it's in the use of those tools. And so this is basically what we've been on the journey of over the past 18 months, this idea that we call hybrid creativity, right? Because essentially a lot of where the world goes by default, our world, the world of content, the world of marketing, is sort of artificial creativity. Let's just automate that, the part that we have to think about humans and their salaries, and they're unhappy, and managing creative egos and the rest of it. Let's just get rid of all of that, and we can create assets that are sort of good enough with AI now. And so artificial creativity is sort of the one path. But what we've been trying to champion is what I call hybrid creativity. So creativity that essentially is focused on making sure that the humans not just get faster to the same results, which is fine, it's useful economically, but just faster in our heads is a waste of potential. The interesting part is not just going faster, it's going further. And that's really the beauty of it. So that's kind of the organization within DDB that I lead, and we work with all offices, including obviously our office in Istanbul. It's called RAND DDB, and it's basically our hybrid creativity lab. Our mission when we formulated it initially, I actually started it about 5 years ago, but it was kind of slow, and now it's getting there. Is very simple. We're saying we're going to maximize the number of aha moments per human per hour. Right? It's very, very simple. That's the KPI. And you can think about humans being our own creative people who work with us, for us. You can think about humans as our clients. We want to maximize the number of aha moments they have per hour. And you can think about this as the general population. So your final, customers, they want to have aha moments. They want to be surprised and look at something interesting, not just the default that will sort of push their buttons and therefore they will go there. So this is really a choice which leads to effectiveness, not just to efficiency. And I think that's super important. How do you maximize the number of aha moments? Because, aha moments feel good and they deliver the financial results. We have all the proof in the world to show that, if you capture somebody's attention with something interesting, they will remember it for longer, and the rest of it. So if we're fighting on a are they going to click right now basis? The kind of the dumb AI produced image, which just caters to my internal biological biases, such as, as a male, I would probably click more on a beautiful female. That probably can compete and might even win when it comes to if we're optimizing for which one I'm going to click. But if we're optimizing for which one I'm going to remember, which one I'm going to feel good about in the long run, then no, the interesting stuff wins. The unpredictable stuff wins. The surprising stuff wins. And that's really the effectiveness versus efficiency kind of debate. So at RAND, we sort of think about the creative process in two parts. We talk about the exploration versus the execution part. And exploration is about when you still don't know what it is that you're doing. And that's the beautiful part. And then the execution is what you're doing, and then you're just trying to execute it. And there's value in both, and we're trying to develop tools for both. But execution is just about people having better tools, not wasting their human potential on the things that robots can do, and that's fine. The beautiful thing is the exploration part. It's sort of making sure that better ideas happen more often. People have more aha moments. And this happens when different minds collide. Bill Bernbach, the founder of DDB, knew that because he created the original art director copywriter pair. And before that was not a thing. Before that, copywriters used to just kind of write the copy and then slide it to the designers, say, now make this pretty. And he met young Paul Rand, who would later become an iconic graphic designer, which is why we're called Rand DDB. He met Paul Rand when they were working at a small agency in the US in 1947 or something like that. And he realized after talking to the guy that actually better ideas happen when different minds collide, right? So the mind that thinks in pictures and the mind that thinks in words. And we believe this is really the potential for the next creative revolution because you have these artificial minds. They think very differently from humans. Now, OpenAI and Microsoft and all of those guys are trying to make them think just like humans. And that's really a waste from a creative standpoint. We need them to be different because that's when the beauty will come. And so I'm going to conclude in a couple of seconds with just sort of I want to elevate this back to the mission. Bill Bernbach, again, our founder back in the day, before the AI, said this: all of us who professionally use the mass media are the shapers of society. We can vulgarize that society, we can brutalize it, or we can help lift it to a higher level. And I think the reality is most of the content, visual, textual, that people consume these days is very much a product of our industry. And so this is really where we play an outsized role. If we go down the path of sort of artificial creativity and dumb and just pushing people's base buttons all the time, the kind of TikTok style, it's just we're going to have a massive effect on the next generation. And the reason for that is this, because the reality of how the media works is we shape our tools, but then our tools shape our taste. And that's really where the loop happens. And so what you see on the left-hand side is an interesting study about music. Music has been going through this for a while now. You can see how gradually the complexity and beauty of music, Western mainstream music, goes down. Okay, and the reason it goes down is because we shape our tools, and our tools, computer-produced music, a lot of it is very, very strict rhythms, very, very strict sort of melodic patterns. There are only 4 or 5 chords that anybody ever uses anymore. I mean, this is partly why I love Turkish music, because it's not going there. It's still beautiful in a lot of rhythmic ways, but still. And so this is what happens. We're gonna if we start producing all our content that we consume with the default Midjourney setting and the default Midjourney look and the default ChatGPT style of writing, this will become how our kids think one should write and one should look. And that's the loop. That's the danger. Because once this is how you perceive it, that this is how it should be done, then you just don't like the other thing. This is what happened to music. Now it's hard for people to go, oh, it's not in 4/4, it's in 5/4 rhythm or 3/4. It just doesn't sound right to them. They expect the 4/4 because that's what they've been trained on. And so this is really the choice, right? If you think about this, we've reached the stage where sort of it with very little effort as humans, we can create something of okay quality. But obviously this graph between quality and effort is relative. So the question that we as an industry, I think, need to answer is this: where do we draw the line that we say this is good for an ad? For a lot of people, they decided it's okay to draw that line under the curve and say, what the tools do is good enough for an ad. And I think it's on us to say, no, it's not good enough. We need to sort of together move past that and look at the interesting stuff, because that's going to be more effective, but that's also going to be better for all of us in the long run, because the world will still be a beautiful, diverse, interesting place rather than converging in the black hole of everything is sort of generated and generated more or less the same way, because that's how the technology wants it to be based on its training. So that's really my plea to you. I think we're all facing this choice individually, as organizations, and then as an industry, and ultimately as a civilization. Unfortunately, I'm a realist, and so I think a large portion of us will just go down the drone way and will automate our own minds. But I think some of us can fight, some of us can really, and it will be hard, right? Because humans are lazy. But some of us can put the attention in saying, you know what? No, we will go the cyborg way. We'll use these tools that are available to us in a way that help us get further, not just faster. And that can really move us into a beautiful place, which I call the next creative revolution. Then human minds collide with non-human minds to push us to more interesting territories. And that's why we at DDB, are incredibly optimistic about the future of this. We are the home of the original creative revolution. We believe that we can lead the next one. But B, we're really working hard to make sure that we stay focused while using all the tools to automate and to drive efficiency. We stay focused on effectiveness, on exploration, on going further, not faster, and on making sure that all of us become cyborgs and not drones. And I'll conclude here with my own happy mug. Should you be interested in more philosophical stuff, I write a lot of essays on the subject of AI and beyond. So here's a link for you. And that's what I had to share with you today. Thank you very much.
George Strakhov gerçekten inanılmaz bir konuşma yaptı. Çünkü biz bir şeyleri yaratıyoruz. Bu bahsettiği cümle şöyleydi. We shape our tools, then our tools shape our taste. Biz bir şey yaratıyoruz, sonra o döngünün içerisinde aynı şeyleri üretmeye başlıyoruz. Kısır döngü. Yaratıcılıkta da öyle. Bu cyborg işi çok güzel. Reklamcılıkta çok kullanılan bir terim. Genç arkadaşlar belki tam bilmeyebilir de aha moment. Zamanında P&G ile çalışmıştık. Onlar için çok kıymetlidir bu. Tüketicinin bir şeyi öyle demek ki dediği anda başlıyor ilişki. Çok kıymetli bir ayrım yaptı. Biz ayrıntıları istiyoruz. Yani klik istiyoruz, sayı istiyoruz, hedef istiyoruz. Ama reklamın görülmesi değil önemli olan. Reklamın hatırlanması. Marka ismi bilinirliği önemli değil. Markanın tercih edilmesi önemli. Bu bağlamda duygusal ilişki kurmak istiyorsak başka türlü bakacağız. Çok güzel ipuçları. Mesela beyin fırtınası niye yapıyoruz? Mesela Zoom'da daha zor oluyor işler. Yaratıcıların bir fiziki ortamda buluşmasını bir reklam yöneticisi olarak çok önemsiyorum. Çünkü birlikte üretiliyor. Birisinin ifadesi, bir ses tonu, bir koku, bir duygu size bambaşka şeyler düşündürüyor. Öyle soliteri bir şekilde yaratıcılık olmuyor. Cyborg da burada bizi kışkırtıyor. Bize daha iyi sorular soruyor. Bizim beynimizi daha çok açıyor. Bu şekilde bakarsak yapay zeka insan beyni için muhteşem bir düşünce arkadaşı olacak. Yani belki yeni nesil Aristo, belki yeni nesil Eflatun bilgisayarlarımız olacak, hocalarımız olacak. Bu açıdan görürsek, yani vakit geçirmek için işte sosyal medyada resim paylaşıp like etmek, dislike etmek ya da birileriyle kavga etmek ya da öfkemizi aktarmak, bunlar yaptığımız günlük işler. Ama insanlığın kalıcı kültürel mirasına katkıda bulunmak için başka türlü bakmamız lazım. Çok güzel bir sunumdu. Rica ediyorum tekrar tekrar izleyin, paylaşın. Önümüzdeki günlerde biz bunları sitelerimizde paylaşacağız.